don't know why I stayed after finding the photo. I should have left the moment I saw it. Me on that porch, in clothes I owned, smiling into a camera I didn't remember. But I didn't. I told myself it had to be a prank. Maybe someone was squatting in the house. Maybe a neighbor had been watching and printed the photo to mess with me. But the closest neighbor was nearly a mile down the road, and the photo paper was yellowed. Aged, I even smelled it. It had that old chemical scent from when pictures were developed in a darkroom. Who still does that? Still, I stayed. I don't know if it was curiosity, stupidity, or something more subtle, like being slowly lulled into place. That night, I slept in the guest bedroom downstairs, not wanting to go back upstairs near the study. The bed was surprisingly well made, the sheets crisp, folded like they had just been pressed, and the smell was there again, my mother's perfume, faint but unmistakable. Around 2:00 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps overhead, slow, heavy, deliberate. I stayed completely still. My mind flipped through every rational explanation. Raccoons, maybe a possum, old house sounds, but no animal paces back and forth. I counted 7 slow steps, a pause, then 8 more going the other direction. Then a voice said my name, not a whisper, not angry, just calm/female, like someone familiar calling you in from outside. I didn't answer. I didn't move. I don't know how long I lay there with my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. Eventually, the footsteps stopped. The silence returned. I didn't sleep again. When I finally got the door open, I found nothing up there but boxes, an insulation blackened with age, but there was dust on the floor thick, and I saw it clearly. Footprints, 2 lines of them, walking back and forth across the length of the attic. Bare feet. I didn't even bother pretending to explain that one away. That night, I locked the bedroom door. I wedged a chair under the knob. I kept my phone fully charged and placed it right next to me. Around midnight, I started hearing soft sounds, like humming, a woman's voice, the same one that said my name. It was coming from the walls, but not through the walls in them. I pressed my ear to the plaster and heard it clearer. An old lullaby, off-key and low. Then came a knock. Not at the front door, not on the bedroom door, on the inside wall. 3 slow knocks. Then silence. I stayed frozen in bed. The air in the room went cold, and I could see my breath. Then the voice said my name again, but it was closer now, right behind the wall. It sounded like it was smiling. I fell asleep somehow. Not real sleep, but that exhausted unconsciousness you collapse into after your body gives out. The next morning I found something new in the kitchen, a teacup, old porcelain, floral pattern, full of steaming black tea. I hadn't made it. No one else was there. I checked the locks, all untouched. The house was sealed, just like I left it, but the tea was fresh, hot, like someone had made it for me. I dumped it in the sink. That night, the humming returned. This time, it came with scratching. And again, the voice. Same tone, same volume. It always said the same thing, my name, except once. Once it said, "You're home now." The next morning I found something even worse. The same photo from the study, the one of me on the porch. It was now on the fireplace mantel. But it had changed. My face was still there, still smiling, but my eyes were wrong. They were completely black, glossy, like polished stones. I threw it in the fireplace. I lit it on fire. The frame cracked. The paper curled and turned black. I watched it burn to ash. But the next day, it was back on the mantel, unburned, the same smile, the same eyes. I tried to leave that day, packed a bag, grabbed my keys, got in my car, but when I pulled out of the driveway and turned onto the main road, it looped. I drove for 10 minutes, 50, but the road kept curving back to the same intersection. The one with the dead oak tree and the rusted mailbox that leaned sideways. I turned around, tried another way. I was trapped. When I got back to the house, the front door was wide open. The smell of perfume was stronger than ever, and there were footprints, bare and wet, leading from the door to the staircase. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't turn off the lights. But around 3 a.m. the power cut out. Total blackness. I sat in the hallway with a flashlight and listened. The humming returned. So did the footsteps. They were on the stairs now. Then I heard a voice. Not from the wall this time, but from the air beside me. "I've missed you." The light flickered, and I swear, for just a second, I saw someone standing at the top of the stairs. A woman. Pale skin, black dress. Her face was just a blur. The light went out completely. When it came back on, she was gone. But the teacup was back, sitting beside me, full of fresh tea. The next few days blurred. Time didn't work right. Sometimes I'd look at the clock and hours would be missing. Sometimes I'd wake up in rooms I didn't fall asleep in. Once I woke up on the roof, barefoot, in the rain, with no memory of how I got there. The worst part, I started answering the voice when it called my name. Not because I wanted to, but because it felt like I had always known it. like I had always lived here, like the house had always been mine, I had always been. I stopped fighting it. Now, when it calls, I go. When the tea appears, I drink it. And when the old piano plays in the middle of the night, I sit beside it and listen. I don't know how long I've been here. The mail stopped coming. My phone won't connect. The road outside doesn't lead anywhere anymore. But I don't think I want to leave now. The house knows my name, and I think soon it will let me know hers. The house had its own rhythm. I began to notice it, the way you eventually learn to time the ticking of a clock you thought was broken. The floors creaked in patterns, like footsteps circling the same routes. Doors opened slowly, not from drafts, but like they were considering something. Waiting, breathing. I stopped trying to leave, not because I was afraid anymore, but because it felt pointless. The road just spun me in circles. GPS didn't work, and when I tried walking, the woods turned in on themselves. No matter how far I went, I always ended up back at the front gate, the wrought iron arch bending slightly like it was welcoming me home. One night, I opened every window in the house. I screamed into the woods until my throat cracked. I turned on every light, dragged every piece of furniture into the hallway, and tried to block every room. I thought maybe it would confuse whatever was moving through the walls. But the next morning, everything was back in place, perfectly arranged, cushions straightened, dust wiped clean. I asked it, out loud, "What do you want from me?" Silence at first, but then a knock, just once, on the wall to my left. I didn't move. Then it came again, softer, slower, knock, knock, knock. Then the humming started again, but this time it wasn't a lullaby. It was something older. It almost sounded like church music, but warped notes that didn't belong together. A melody that twisted in on itself like a Mobius strip. I knew where it was coming from, the attic. I hadn't gone back up there since the day I saw the footprints. But now, the door hung open, the pull string swaying gently, even though there was no wind. I climbed the ladder slowly. My hands trembled against the rungs. The attic was lit by a single, flickering bulb hanging from the ceiling. Below it was a chair, and on that chair, something waited for me. It was another photo of me, but now I was inside the house, looking out the attic window. Behind me stood a woman, tall, dark dress. Her hand rested on my shoulder, but her face was completely blank. No eyes, no mouth, just smooth skin. My own face, in contrast, was different from the last photo. I was crying. I picked up the photo, and underneath it was a slip of paper, old, yellowed, the edges curled like dried leaves. It read, "We live through you now. You stay, or we leave with you." I dropped the photo. I finally understood. The house didn't want to kill me. It didn't want revenge. It wanted roots, someone to keep it from dying, a memory to attach to, a story to survive inside. I was never supposed to leave. I was supposed to become part of it, not just haunt it, host it. And if I didn't, it would follow me. It would find someone else. That night I tried to fight it. I tore the photos off the walls. I smashed the teacup. I broke every mirror, every chair, every frame. I screamed until blood came from my throat. And for a moment, it was silent. I thought maybe I'd won. But then the lights went out again. And when they came back, the photos were back on the walls. Dozens of them now. All of me. Me standing in different rooms. Me sleeping. Me eating. Me at the piano. Me walking up the stairs. Every photo with that same figure behind me. Growing closer. More detailed. Her face slowly forming. And in one, just one. I wasn't in the picture at all. Just her, smiling. I tried to sleep in the basement that night, thinking maybe I could put enough space between me and whatever the house was becoming. I brought candles, my phone, a blanket. There were no windows down there, just concrete walls and shelves filled with old jars, sealed shut with wax. They held things I didn't want to identify. Something organic, grayish, floating in murky fluid. There was also a mirror leaning against the far wall. I hadn't seen it before. Ornate, the kind you'd expect in a Victorian parlor, but cracked, the fracture running from top to bottom like a vein. I avoided it at first. I didn't want to look at myself, not anymore, but I caught a glimpse, and I wish I hadn't because my reflection didn't move when I did. I turned, it didn't. I blinked, it stared, and then, slowly, it smiled. Not a human smile. It kept smiling even as I backed away. Then it lifted its hand, the one that should have been mine, and wrote something on the glass in fog that hadn't been there. Seconds earlier, say it. I shook my head. My throat went dry. The reflection's head tilted, almost playful. Say it. The candles blew out. I stumbled up the stairs in the dark, heart pounding, head spinning. The house felt wrong now, warmer than it should be, like something had come alive inside the walls. The wallpaper seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting with each of my panicked gasps. The wooden banister pulsed faintly beneath my hand, like a vein. When I made it to the hallway, I saw the door to my room was open. No, not just open, welcoming. And inside, the tea was waiting. 2 cups now. One for me, one for her. I stood in the doorway and finally asked it. Not the house, not the woman, not the voice, just the thing. Whatever it was, the presence that had taken root in every corner of this place. What happens if I say it? The light in the hallway flickered. And from the other end of the corridor I heard my own voice answer. I ran, again, not out of fear, but out of refusal. I would not speak to something wearing my skin. I spent the night locked in the bathroom, clutching a pair of scissors. The mirror above the sink had been shattered with a towel rack. I had done that the second I entered. In the dim emergency light from my phone, I watched the hallway through the cracked door. Shadows moved past now and then. Not quick, not darting, slow, heavy, measured. I saw my own silhouette pass once, and pause, and look at the door. Then it moved on. In the morning, I opened the door and the hallway was empty. Everything was normal, or close to it. The tea was gone. The photos were gone. Even the smell my mother's perfume had faded. For a few hours, I believed maybe it had ended. Maybe the house had grown tired of me. Maybe it was finished. But then I saw the front door was wide open, and standing outside on the porch was me. Same clothes, same face, but not me. It smiled, calmly, softly, and it said, "You're almost ready." Then it turned and walked into the woods. I stood there for hours. I don't remember breathing. I don't remember thinking. Just the slow, thudding pulse in my ears. The sound of something unraveling in my head. That night, I dreamed of the house, but it was wrong. Stretched tall and crooked like it had grown bones. Its windows blinked. Its doors grinned. It wasn't just haunted, it was the ghost. And I wasn't outside it anymore. I was part of it, buried in its walls. My mouth filled with plaster, my fingers nailed into floorboards. I was watching the next person walk through the door, and I whispered their name. I stopped trusting myself. My thoughts weren't mine anymore. Not entirely. They moved through my head like wind through an old house. Quiet, aimless, picking up dust. Sometimes I'd walk into a room and forget how I got there. Sometimes I'd wake up in the hallway, on the stairs, once even standing in the yard, barefoot at dawn, staring at the woods. I didn't remember opening the door. I didn't remember stepping outside, but I was there, and I was humming. The same broken lullaby the house had sung to me. That was the moment I knew I had to end it, not escape. I couldn't. I'd tried every route, every tool, every prayer, but I thought maybe if I destroyed the house, burned it down, I could stop it from pulling anyone else in. I grabbed a gas can from the shed, matches from the kitchen. I poured fuel up the stairs, into the walls, down the hallway, soaking the floorboards. I didn't even think about it. I acted like I was in a trance. Methodical, robotic, empty. The house didn't fight me, it just watched. Right before I lit the match, I stood in the center of the living room, dripping with gasoline, and said it out loud. "I'm not yours." And from somewhere above me, in the attic or the ceiling or inside my head, I heard the voice again, clearer than ever. "But I'm yours." The lights flickered. Every bulb in the house flared at once, then shattered in perfect sequence. Pop, 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 like a row of knuckles cracking. Then the floor under me pulsed, like it had a heartbeat. I dropped the match. Flames roared across the wood, licking the walls, climbing the stairs. The heat was immediate, blistering real, but the house didn't burn. The flames rolled over the surfaces without blackening them. The wallpaper curled and then the wood hissed but did not crack. The fire wasn't consuming the house, it was feeding it. But it wasn't there anymore, just wall. Seamless, smooth. I turned and saw myself, standing in the mirror across the room. But this version of me was clean, calm, smiling, and behind me. Her fully formed now a face, pale eyes, no irises, a mouth stitched shut with something that looked like human hair. She stood beside my reflection and lifted a hand, and so did I, not willingly, not with control, but like a puppet. I watched myself mimic her every movement, my limbs jerking under someone else's strings. She leaned in and whispered something into my reflection's ear. My reflection smiled wider, nodded, then turned to look at me directly, and blinked. The real me, or what was left of it, collapsed. The house swallowed everything after that. The fire was gone, or it was still burning, just not with flames. Time stopped, or looped. I don't know anymore. Now, I sit in the study and write this. The same room where I found the first photo. The same room where I saw her eyes form in the mirror. I think I was supposed to tell this story. I think that was the point, that the house needs its memories spoken out loud to live on. Not to die with me, but to move forward, through others. So maybe you're reading this in an old journal you found. Maybe you're hearing it on a recording left behind in an attic. Maybe you'll tell someone else what happened here, and the house will hear it, and it will come find you. You'll smell your childhood, you'll see yourself in photos you never took. You'll hear your name whispered in the walls, and one night you'll say it back. You won't mean to, but you will. And when you do, you'll be home, just like me. The mirror in the basement. A true haunted object story. Some reflections don't copy you, they replace you. Let's begin. I bought the mirror at a flea market just outside Charleston. It was leaning against a half-collapsed barn, sitting in the dirt, the frame caked in mud and ash. The seller, a sunburnt man in work boots, who looked like he hadn't slept in a week, said I could have it for free. I didn't ask why, maybe I should have, but the mirror was beautiful. Ornate black frame, old as hell, with carvings along the edges that looked almost like vines or veins. The glass itself had a few cracks, but that only made it feel more authentic. It looked like something out of a Victorian mansion, and I had a bare wall in my new basement that needed something, anything, to make it less depressing. So I brought it home, and everything got worse from there. First few days were fine. I hung the mirror up on the far wall across from my basement couch. I liked the look of it. Old world Gothic made the place feel less like a concrete box and more like part of the house. But by the end of the week I noticed something strange. Not about the mirror itself, about the reflection that was off. At first it was small things. I'd catch myself glancing into it and thinking, was my head tilted a second ago? Or I swear I just blinked. It started to feel like the reflection was just a fraction behind me. Then it started getting bolder. One night I was coming down the stairs with a load of laundry. The basement was dimly lit, a single bulb above the washer. The mirror sat across the room in the shadows. I glanced up casually as I reached the bottom step, and I froze. In the mirror I was already standing in the basement, both feet flat on the ground, even though I was still coming down the last step. The reflection smiled. I stopped looking into the mirror after that, started draping a blanket over it, pretended it was just my imagination, stress, whatever excuse I could come up with that wasn't tea. I brought a haunted antique into my house and now it wants to wear my skin. But the mirror didn't like being ignored. I started hearing noises in the basement when I was upstairs, soft, scraping sounds, like nails across glass. Sometimes I'd hear low, breathy, humming, not music, not human, just sound. I checked for animals, set traps, called a pest control guy. He went down, stayed for maybe 3 minutes, and came back up pale. I'm not going down there again, he said. Get rid of that mirror. I asked him why. He wouldn't say. The next day the blanket was off. I hadn't touched it. It was folded neatly on the floor, right in front of the mirror, like someone had gently removed it and set it there. That night I dreamed I was in the basement, but it wasn't mine anymore. The walls were made of stone, wet, ancient, like some kind of underground cathedral. The mirror was massive now, a doorway, not a decoration. My reflection stood inside it. It wasn't copying me, it was watching me, and its eyes were completely black. No whites, no iris, just glossy, endless dark. I woke up gasping for air. My mouth was dry. My skin felt ice cold. There were scratches down my arms, thin, deep lines that hadn't been there when I went to bed. There was a smudge on the bathroom mirror, a handprint, not mine. I didn't go down to the basement for 3 days after the scratches appeared. I told myself I was busy. I wasn't, I just didn't want to see it again. That glass, that thing behind the glass, pretending to be me. But I couldn't ignore it forever. I needed to wash clothes. I needed to feel like I was in control of my own house again. So on the 4th day I went down, the air was colder, not just cool, sharp, like winter breath. And it had a scent to it. Now something metallic, stale, like old pennies in forgotten attics. I kept my eyes away from the mirror as I crossed the room. I turned on the washer, dumped in clothes, poured detergent, all while staring at the floor. But I felt it. I felt it watching me. It wasn't just a presence anymore. It had weight, like there was something leaning forward inside the mirror, pressing its face to the glass, waiting for me to look. I turned, quickly, reflex, maybe, and I saw it. It was me, but it wasn't. Same face, same clothes, but not the same posture. The reflection was to still. Its eyes were wider, unblinking, and when I stepped back, it didn't. It smiled again, slow, wide, and this time it moved its hand to the glass palm out, like it was inviting me, no, daring me. I ran upstairs and slammed the door. Behind me I heard something knock from below 1, 2, 3 times. I started sleeping with my bedroom door locked. I left lights on in every room. I stopped using mirrors. I even covered the bathroom mirror with a towel. I brushed my teeth using my phone screen as a reflection. I thought maybe I was losing my mind. So I called a friend, Donnie. She's the type that believes in sage and energy cleansing in the veil. Normally I'd roll my eyes, but I was desperate. She came over the next afternoon. I didn't tell her the full story, just that I felt something was off with an old mirror I'd picked up. She didn't even make it down the stairs. The second she hit the 3rd step, she stopped and froze. I asked her what was wrong. There's something in the glass, she said. You didn't tell me it had a name. I stared at her. The thing in the mirror, she whispered. It knows your name, and it's using your face. She turned and walked back up without another word. Left the house, didn't answer my texts after that. Haven't heard from her since. That night I had another dream. Only this time, I wasn't in the basement, I was in the mirror. I was watching me, the real me, sit on the couch, rubbing my eyes, completely unaware I was being watched. I tried to speak to Scream to punch the glass from the inside, but nothing worked. The dream version of me, the one outside the mirror, slowly looked toward me. Then I woke up, except the basement light was on. I could see it glowing faintly under the door. I hadn't turned it on. I opened the basement door, and every single light was on. Bright, blinding. And in the middle of the floor was a photo, not old, not yellowed, freshly printed, of me sleeping from the corner of my bedroom. I burned the photo, set it on fire right there in the kitchen sink. It curled fast, blackened at the edges. The image of me, sleeping, unaware, folding in on itself until only ash remained. But the next morning, it was back. Same picture, same angle. But this time, my eyes were open, and I was staring straight into the lens. I stopped sleeping. I kept every light in the house on, disconnected the basement breaker, taped towels to every mirror, threw blankets over shiny appliances. Even the microwave, any surface that could reflect had to go, but didn't stop the dreams. They were happening every night now. In the dream, I was always in the mirror, looking out, watching myself live a life that didn't feel like mine anymore. The reflection was always one step ahead of me, brushing its teeth before I did, lifting its cup before I reached for mine, blinking out of sync. It smiled more than I ever have. Too much, and too wide. One night, I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, heavy, like boots on hardwood. I live alone. I grabbed the only thing nearby, a broom, and crept up the stairs. At the top, I saw movement down the hall. It was me, standing outside the bathroom, facing the covered mirror, still as a corpse. The figure slowly turned its head and looked right at me, and I felt it. Not fear, not panic, but this deep, sickening recognition. That thing knew me better than I knew myself. Then it stepped into the bathroom. I ran. I didn't even check. I didn't lift the towel. I didn't look. I just ran down to the basement like a fool. Like a trapped animal going back into the cage. I don't know why. Maybe part of me already knew that's where I belonged now. The mirror was uncovered again. Of course it was. I stared into it, trembling. I looked like me. Same hoodie, same messy hair, same bruise on my wrist from where I'd hit the doorframe earlier. But something in my eyes was wrong. Like I wasn't just looking, I was searching. Then the reflection smiled and raised its hand to the glass again. I didn't move, but my reflection tapped once, then twice, then 3 times, and whispered in my voice, "You're tired, let me take over." I don't remember falling asleep, but I woke up on the floor. Hours later, the lights were off, the basement was ice cold, and the mirror was empty, no reflection, just a black, glassy void. I stood, moved left, moved right. Nothing moved with me. Then, slowly, my reflection walked back in from the edge of the frame, but it was different now. The eyes were completely black. The mouth was sewn shut. Dark threads pulled tight across the lips. Its hands were pressed flat against the glass, and behind it were others, faint shapes, dozens, all standing still in the dark space behind the mirror, watching, waiting.